Honda's smartest motorcycle for 2026 isn't a massive adventure bike with endless electronics, but a lightweight, practical machine built for the kind of riding people actually do every single day. Because honestly, that's exactly why the idea of the 2026 Honda XRE 190 Sahara feels so interesting right now. Not because it's extreme, not because it's fast, but because it might quietly become one of the most useful motorcycles Honda could build. Welcome back to Acer Rider, and today we're talking about a bike that perfectly fits the modern world. A motorcycle designed for riders who want simplicity, comfort, fuel efficiency, light adventure capability, and real-world usability all in one package. And I'll be honest from the beginning, I think this kind of motorcycle matters more than ever. Because while the motorcycle industry keeps chasing bigger engines and more complicated technology, a lot of riders just want something that works everywhere without becoming stressful to own. And that's exactly where the XRE 190 Sahara could shine. Now, the first thing you notice about this bike would probably be the design. Honda would likely keep that familiar adventure-inspired dual sport look, but scaled into a lighter, more approachable package. Tall stance, slim bodywork, upright handlebars, long travel suspension, and enough ground clearance to handle rough roads without feeling intimidating. And honestly, I think this would look fantastic because there's something really balanced about smaller dual sports. They look capable without feeling oversized, aggressive without becoming intimidating, functional without trying too hard. And personally, I actually prefer this approach over many large adventure bikes today, because some modern motorcycles feel like they're designed more for social media photos than actual riding. But the XRE 190 Sahara should feel different. It should feel real. Now let's talk about the engine, because this is where some people might underestimate the bike immediately. A 190 cubic centimeters single-cylinder engine doesn't sound exciting on paper. And yes, riders obsessed with horsepower numbers would probably dismiss it instantly. But honestly, that completely misses the point. Because the XRE 190 Sahara wouldn't be built for speed. It would be built for everyday life. Fuel efficient, smooth, reliable, easy to maintain, and tuned for low-end usability rather than outright performance. And personally, I think that's exactly the right direction, because the best motorcycles are not always the ones with the biggest engines. They're the ones you actually want to ride every day. Now imagine using this bike in the real world. Traffic? Easy. Broken roads? No problem. Tight city streets? Perfect. Village roads? Comfortable. Light trails? Absolutely manageable. And this is where lightweight dual sports become incredibly valuable. Most roads around the world are not smooth highways. They're unpredictable, rough, full of potholes and uneven surfaces. And honestly, motorcycles like this handle those conditions better than many expensive street bikes, because instead of fighting the road, they adapt to it. Now let's talk about weight, because this would probably become one of the bike's biggest strengths. A lighter motorcycle changes everything. It becomes easier to maneuver in traffic, easier to control at low speeds, easier to ride off-road, easier to park, easier to learn on. And honestly, I think manufacturers underestimate how important that feeling is. Because heavy motorcycles can become exhausting over time. But lightweight motorcycles, they make riding feel effortless. And personally, I think that's one of the reasons smaller dual sports create such loyal riders. They reduce stress. Now here's something really important about the XRE 190 Sahara concept. It doesn't try to be extreme. And I actually think that's a huge advantage, because too many motorcycles today are trying to become everything at once. Sport bike, touring bike, adventure bike, tech showcase. But the XRE 190 Sahara should stay focused. Simple dual sport, real-world comfort, everyday practicality, and honestly, that clarity of purpose is refreshing. Now, suspension would obviously play a huge role here. Long travel forks, rear monoshock, upright riding position, all of that would help the bike feel comfortable on rough roads while still remaining easy to ride in the city. And personally, I think this is exactly why small adventure-style motorcycles are becoming more popular worldwide. They simply make daily riding easier, You stop worrying about every pothole. You stop avoiding rough roads. You stop stressing over imperfect conditions. You just ride. Now let's talk about fuel economy, because this is another huge advantage smaller bikes have. A modern 190 cubic centimeters Honda engine would likely deliver excellent fuel efficiency, making this an incredibly affordable motorcycle to live with long term. And honestly, in today's world, that matters more than ever. Because not everyone wants a motorcycle that burns through fuel just to look impressive. A bike like this could become the perfect daily companion for riders who want freedom without huge ownership costs. And personally, I think that practicality is underrated. But now let's be realistic, because the XRE 190 Sahara would absolutely have weaknesses too. The biggest issue would probably be highway performance. A 190 cubic centimeters dual sport simply isn't designed for long high-speed touring. Sure, it could handle highways when necessary, but sustained high-speed riding would probably feel strained. And honestly, that's just part of the trade-off. You gain lightweight agility and fuel economy, but sacrifice some long-distance power and stability. Another thing some riders might criticize is the lack of advanced features. Because compared to larger adventure bikes, this motorcycle would probably stay relatively simple. No giant TFT display, no advanced electronics package, no cruise control, no premium touring technology. And honestly, some people would call that outdated. But personally, I think simplicity is part of the appeal. Because the more complicated motorcycles become, the more disconnected some riders feel from the actual experience of riding. And the XRE 190 Sahara should feel direct, mechanical, and honest. Now let's talk about off-road capability. And this is important because some people might expect too much. This would not be a hardcore enduro bike. It would likely handle gravel roads, trails, dirt paths, rough terrain very comfortably. But aggressive motocross-style riding, deep mud, extreme technical terrain, probably not its ideal environment. And honestly, that's perfectly fine, because this motorcycle should focus on versatility, not extremes. Now here's my personal opinion after thinking about this concept. I genuinely believe motorcycles like the XRE 190 Sahara represent the future for many riders. Not because they're flashy, but because they make sense. They're practical without being boring, capable without becoming intimidating, affordable without feeling cheap, and most importantly, they actually fit into everyday life. And honestly, I think that's something many manufacturers are forgetting right now, because not every rider dreams about crossing continents or owning 150 horsepower motorcycles. Some riders just want a reliable, comfortable machine that can handle real roads, real conditions, and real daily use, and that's exactly where the XRE 190 Sahara could quietly become brilliant. So would it be perfect? No. Some riders would want more power, some would want more technology, some would want better highway performance. But honestly, I think the people who truly understand bikes like this would absolutely love it, because motorcycles like the XRE 190 Sahara aren't built to dominate spec sheets. They're built to make everyday riding enjoyable. And sometimes, that matters way more.